kosi saying suni.
You are upon the
Adom now so Inti specifically no a day potty nana mo pese mo magana for with this announcement. Increment no why mo na affected directly.
So me da say. Also increment no affected directly. Because omuye residential customers but omuye lifeline consumers. Lifeline consumers no omuye nkrofo consuming electricity up to 30 kilowatt hours. Kilowatt hours we can send it as unit.
30 and I say 50.
30.
But it used to be 50, no?
Yes, we reduced that in the September 2022 tariff. That's the major tariff that we did.
Oh, okay.
In September 2022.
Okay.
So we reverted to 30 kilowatt hours.
Okay.
And for those who are in that bracket, they will not experience any increment. It's 0. And for industrial customers and small and medium scale enterprises such as these cold stores, hairdressing salons, barbering salons, and stuff like that, they will not experience any increment. But more increments in better consumers who are not lifeline consumers in the residential class. May experience 4.22%. And then you say, would have say 100 cities and I will consume previously. No. So yeah, a customer who is a non-lifeline customer, no, we are a residential customer, no. They say you pay 4.22% in addition to the 100 cities. So if you take 4% of 100 now, it will come to about 4 cities. And eventually, we'll build instead of 100 cities, we'll buy 104 cities. The area we build now, at the end of the period, is 50 cities. The 4.22%, you'll be paying something in the region of 2 cities extra. And 52 cities. And only a tariff now,
but we all know, sir, we hear calculation in the way our wire no now. It might be misleading for the simple reason, sir. The increment not affected the unit cost of power, no? Meboa.
We deal with the energy charge.
Absolutely.
Levies are not part of the PURC's remit.
Yeah, I agree. But the American say, your calculation, no? Because you see, 50 cities will be better for power. Say the other year calculation, no? So 50 cities no would include all the statutory levies. Any other thing what your friend is saying, end user tariff, no, no. And he say, 4%, no, for that composite figure now, it might be misleading. And I won't use 4% on the unit charge of electricity.
No, and I'm about to say, is on the energy charge, which
absolutely
is ends there.
Yes.
The other levies and charges, street light levy and the rural electrification levy, meaning now the BOMA is 5%. Bapia 3% and Bapia 2%.
Yes.
In total, Boma is 5%. You can do the 5% on top of whatever PURC is charging.
And I know the Metias here. The 4% increment now air banner. It is not on the existing end user tariff, Meboa.
It is on what you consume and what you pay.
The energy charge, no?
The energy charge.
Yes. And then I make us say, example, Amaya. Why don't you take the current minimum cost per unit of electricity? Now on 4% no and calculate it on that minimum cost. So now composite figure no emum. That's what I want to understand. Because the 4% no will not affect, for example, VAT and Nipanituya. But the 50 Ghana cedis you used, no, VAT nini bibia eka hon meboa.
The street light levy. The rural
any rural ni na kasa 50 Ghana cedis example na odema ye no meboa. And I'm saying say if the increment no is affecting the energy charge now, the unit cost now consumer need to na say 4% increment bar, it will affect that energy charge no and not the composite figure now statutory charges ni na aka no. And I want you to do that breakdown well. Now man for what you mo see.
Yeah, and see over there fan say me kita figures immediately over here. Me kita the other figures which the current figures that we have. Me kita no, but You difference is 64 pesos per unit charge. Okay, let's say for a non-lifeliner, 64 pesos per unit charge.
Yes.
So work the 4% on the 64%.
Absolutely.
The 64 pesos unit charge. And then you multiply that by your consumption.
Your consumption, level. Good.
Yes.
And so now the statutory levies now then
yes.
Then you get your composite figure. But my other question will be, say, this what brought about increment? Because you say more major tariff review and only the nabe brina eshe enimu say betimi aba. Have you now changed it? Say every quarter there will be a review and
No, Mpacho, the last time I also said that there are two major tariff. Sorry, there are two tariff windows that the TURC undertakes.
Yes.
First one, a major tariff, and then in September 2022, and that major tariff is supposed to last between 2022 and 2025. It's a 3-year tariff. 94.7. But in between these 3 years, in between this 2022 and 2025, a lot would have taken place in terms of exchange rate, the depreciation or appreciation of the currency, in terms of inflation going up or down, in terms of the generation mix between hydro and thermal, in terms of fuel cost. These 4 parameters which the utilities don't have control over, those are the ones that we correct using the minor tariff adjustments on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
So as we can get the real value of the tariff over time.
Okay.
Yes, and then we'll be stuck with the 2022 figure now, and then at the end of the 2025 or 2025, now another tariff window. Then we'll be having a quantum leap.
Yeah.
Maybe some 50%, 60%, which is what we all try to avoid. It's now we have to correct for those ones in the interim as those factors unfold.
Yeah, but see in the interim, himself for the utility companies, majority of the things they use, equipment we use, are imported. In China, dollar rates are very critical. But fortunately, it's been relatively stable over the period. Then necessities are change way. This increment.
But your memo figures you are on the last quarter now using. In fact, the exchange rate alone, the exchange rate component in the tariff computation takes 60%, 60. The exchange rate component alone takes about 60% of that. Now, in the last tariff window, that was the second quarter tariff adjustment. It took us, we were using an exchange rate of 12 cedis 71 pesos to the dollar. They say we are using an exchange rate of 10 cedis 49 pesos to the dollar. That's an appreciation of the currency against the dollar.
Yes.
Now, if you come to the second item, which is inflation figure now you use at the time, we're using an inflation figure of about 12 point. I think we're using about 12 point something. I can't readily get the inflation figure, but now you use 12, just above 12.6. Okay, inflation. But as of now, you used to bear 10.6. Inflation has also dropped to about 2.31 or 2.13. Yeah, inflation has dropped by about 2.13. And then if you get to the mix between the hydro and thermal, we maintained it. Okay. Thermal, the last time round, we used 70.9%. And then hydro, we used 29.01. We maintained that over the period. But if you get to the fuel price, which is the WACOG, the weighted average cost of gas, that one has leaped from $6.52 per MMBTU to $8.12 per MMBTU. And that is a 24.64% jump in the price of the fuel that we use for the thermal plants. And this factor alone is a critical driving factor that pushes the tariff up to this 4.2 that we have. Aside from that, last quarter we were having a debt of about 450 million, which were carried from the first quarter. So we're having a debt of about 450 million that we need to clean off the books. And
even before you come to the debt, no, the first four factors now will boss, so all things being equal, the cedi appreciated against the dollar over the period. And what it means is, fine on as a factor, and was a tariff 1 year the ever form. In the wood, you know, twin chain. Now, if you are Baba share in the after the fluctuation, no, the next factor you mentioned the other day. Inflation. So over the period, a drop marginally by about 2% be maybe.
2%
Good. And so the third factor, the
generation mix.
The generation mix, and also largely you maintained the same mix, over the period. One factor which is the fuel component, and I believe where your fuel are to the power the installed plant, right?
Sir.
Say fuel do you think enough to push the increment to 4%, for example?
Yeah. But what we say the last time tariff na we had an 18.36% increase in electricity tariffs.
Yes.
This time around we are having 4.2% increase in electricity tariff, solely because the exchange rate has actually improved, the cedi has appreciated against the dollar, and then the inflation has also dipped. But if you take the fuel cost, which we don't have any control over, and it has skyrocketed, so that alone will drive the tariff up. If you look at, for instance, Jubilee Field, we're having fuel from Jubilee Field at a cost of $0.5 per MMBTU. But this time round, the fuel cost from Jubilee Field alone is ranging around $2.4 per MMBTU. Now, if you do even the computation between 0.5 and 2.4, I'm sure you can look at that and see what the percentage jump is from 0.5 to 2.4. That's huge.
Yeah.
If you look at if you take Sankofa, we're getting fuel from Sankofa at 6.6. But if you look at it now, we are getting fuel from Sankofa at the price of about 7.6. If you look at what do we call this one? We look at N-gas, that's Nigeria gas. Nigeria gas, we're buying fuel from them at 8.6. They say it's gone up to 9.4. The one from 10, so 10 is one of the oil fields. We were buying fuel at $0.64 per MMBTU. It has jumped to $2.32 per MMBTU. And to these factors in the cost element, you've added all these cost elements in the tariff calculation. It shoots up the tariff to 4.2. Mind you, it would have gone beyond the 4.2, but because of the dampening effect of the exchange rate and the inflation, so you brought it to 4.2, right from 18.36 to 4.2.
The debt you speak about,
but a debt which is accumulated from the first quarter through to the second quarter, and it's all coming out of the exchange rates, because at the time we made an assumption that the exchange rate we used was 7 cedis 52 pesos to the dollar. But as at the time now, we were doing the first quarter tariff, the exchange rate was in the region of about 15 or $16 cedis to the dollar. But we even used an exchange rate of about 12 cedis to the dollar. So even if you use just the 12.71 Nameka and you compare it to the 7.5 to which we used, thinking that would be the exchange rate, there's a gap of about 5 cedis on each dollar that has to be paid for.
Yeah, but why should the consumer pay for that?
Because this is something which is through no fault of the utility service provider.
Yeah, but it is through the fault of the managers of the economy. So why won't government take care of that?
I'm sorry, I think government has also paid part of it. Government has taken up some of the cost.
No, government cost will be subsidies are buying kasa etia for for lifeline customers, and in this case, for businesses are buying exempt from some of the increment. Government would have to pay that to the utilities.
But government also takes up, for instance, if government, they are supposed to pay government some dividend. Government can decide that this dividend you want to pay me at this particular point in time.
Yes.
Stop, don't pay me that dividend. Let's use it to clean up the books. They are supposed, government, there is something we call on-lend loans. Government contract loans and give them to the utility service providers.
Sure.
That when they finish, they should pay back. Government can decide that at this particular point in time, hold on to those loans. Don't pay me those loans figures yet. So those are the ways
I agree. Those ones don't make sense. My point is, if this debt was primarily because of exchange rate fluctuations, na me consumer na me wo jora eshiem ana jora tumantu mini control be over exchange rate. Say buying management of the fiscal space no ama exchange rate ne fluctuate here. Why should I pay for it?
Well, the utility service provider has to be financially viable for them to be able to give us the electricity that we need.
Yeah, so I'll pay the power I consume. And why should I then pay for data through no fault of mine?
And the debt is not through the fault of the service provider.
Yeah, it is the fault of government. That's the point I made. It's the fault of government.
And that's what I'm saying, the government also takes up some of the debt. You understand me? Government takes up or picks up some of the debt.
The debt government takes up, no, Doc. The debt government take it up, no. Say they are church, no, on lend loans. And those ones are specific. We can see them. If you are buying says carry the free utilities, and I say or they bois or more. A buying is also the 100% shareholder of our utility companies, isn't it? That argument, we can look at it. My point, the specific debt arising out of currency fluctuations, why should a consumer bear that?
Well, that's what I'm saying, that, these are factors which the service provider does not have any control over. Neither does the commission have control over those factors.
Neither does the customer also. The customer doesn't have control. But in this case, the customer is being made to pay for it.
Yeah. That is debatable.
Fair.
So that one is not in the jurisdiction of the commission to look at that. For instance, it's like you telling me right now that salaries are low. So why don't you hold on to the tariff? The commission does not determine salaries. The commission does not determine the exchange rate fluctuations. So what we have,
but the commission,
we work with figures from the world. Sorry, we work with figures from the Bank of Ghana, and we work with figures from the Statistical Service. So those figures which are available, those are the figures that we work with. We cannot work with any other figures outside of this range.
Yeah, but the commission, in its own wisdom, it take a decision, say, debt be a carry over from the first quarter, which debt arose out of currency fluctuation. The commission has decided, say, they will pass through that debt onto the consumer. That's a decision the commission took, no?
And that's what I'm saying, that it is not all that debt which is passed through for the consumer to take up. It is not everything which is passed through for the consumer to pick up. Government takes up part of the debt.
Part of the debt arising out of the fluctuation of the currency?
All kinds of debt that the government is able to do, can decide that you ring fence and say some of the debt will be taken up by the government. And government does that quite often.
Inti, how much is the debt? Specifically on the fluctuation.
The debt outstanding from the second quarter, I was say you take it up is 450 million cedis. That's the debt, because the total revenue requirements at that time was about 1.31 billion cedis. And we were able to get about 870 million cedis out of it. But it was still outstanding with about 450 million to be paid. And that is the one that we are staggering over a period of time.
And the 450 million, if I heard you right, 450 million in debt accruing from your friend is saying currency fluctuation. No? And there are other debts.
It's coming from the previous debts that we accumulated from the first quarter through the second quarter and now the third quarter.
Out of currency fluctuation.
It's not just only currency fluctuations that give us those debts.
Okay.
Currency fluctuation is part of it.
It's part
but
of
it's
that
not
debt.
only currency fluctuation that led to that debt.
In this half 450, no, how much did government decide to pay out of the 450?
Of what? No, that's what I'm saying. At this point in time, we've spread 40% of that debt we've captured in this particular tariff. This second quarter tariff, the third quarter tariff, we've captured 40% of that debt in it. So it's still, there's some debt still outstanding.
Indeed, the 60%, no, who would pay the 60%?
Well, the commission will take a look at it and see how it will be apportioned.
And for water, the end, so no, what accounted for the increase? At least with electricity, I know, sir, fuel, the end was critical. All the other factors now apply to water. But if all those other factors were stable, and then water an increment nearby.
If we take the production cost of water, 30% of it is the cost of electricity. And so whatever, once electricity is affected, it will obviously cascade into affecting the pricing of water as well.
94.7.
Oh, okay. And when it take effect from September 1st, right? And what it means, Nessa, we should be ready, say, in the fourth quarter, another increment, Beba.
No, it means to me, at this particular point, say increment, Beba. We only wait and see how the parameters, which none of us has control over, will play out. You know, remember, say, in the first quarter, say, no, the tariff adjustment was about 29.96%. Then we brought it down. When the factors improved, when we did the computation, it came down to 18.36%. Now the factors have improved further, so it's come down to 4.2%. It could so well be that by the fourth quarter, no, maybe the factors would have improved dramatically, and there would have been a total reduction of the tariff. And I say it will just be maintained where it is. It will all be dependent on the factors, the four factors. Now, it will be dependent on the direction in which they move.
Businesses, to all intent and purposes, no, use power more, and I believe that's the wisdom behind the frontier utilities, no air meters, commercial meters for businesses. Why would government exempt businesses now from this increment?
Well, it is not government that is exempting. Remember, it is a PURC.
Why would PURC exempt businesses now from this?
It is because we want to encourage growth, we want to encourage employment, we want to encourage industrialization. The more, because if you look at the tariffs that the industries are paying, they come to us all the time, and we know how much they are losing out, and we also know how much is affecting employment. It is an issue of encouraging industrialization, encouraging growth, encouraging employment. More so, if you look at industries, the cost of serving industry is lower than the cost of serving the residential customer. Because the industries, you need even fewer transformers to get to them.
Mm-hmm.
But with the residential customers, you need a lot more transformers to step down the power all the way to the residential home. So the cost of serving the residential customer far outweighs the cost of serving the industrial customer. So it is just prudent enough to make sure that the industrial class pays their cost of serving them, while the residential customer also pays the cost of serving them.
Because ECG would not know, say, customer A hairdressing salon or B a nika. Band within which band in the bands na kasa band ben or exempted from this.
Oh, but just say Nyamekano, all other bands are exempted except for the residential class, which is not a lifeline. So if you are a residential class customer and you are not a lifeliner, then you are not exempt. But all other classes, industries, SLT, we call them special load tariffs.
Yeah.
Those categories, they are all exempt.
Oh, okay. Okay. It means that once I have commercial meter, no, I'm exempted, right?
Yes. That's
an meter commercial.
That's why cold stores, all those people are exempt.
Very well. Very well. My nurse doc, bibi ani a yebesia ba bidin komobio. Why?
So me da say.
Me da say pa. And Dr. Eric KOFI OBUTEY. Director of Research at the PURC, and I'm